Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Brindlewood Bay, which is the first game that I've ever backed on Kickstarter. This is a game which blends elements of Murder, She Wrote with Cthulhu-like horror, and it seemed rather interesting. The PDFs came out last month, and I want to take a look at them. Let's roll it. As I mentioned in the opener, right now only the PDFs are out for Kickstarter backers, and the PDFs come in at 168 pages, but from page 110 on are mysteries that the players can run through in order to uncover the great overarching conspiracy that underpins the game. It's kind of a neat setup, and the mysteries are really rather well done. The layout is clean. There's a nice serif font for the main text, and the heading fonts are a more stylized decorative text that complement very well. The headers and the footers are very attractive. There's a thin red line going towards the middle where it encounters a pill and the information for the header or the footer inside that pill. If you've ever seen the old Choose Your Own Adventure games and how they had that red pill with the white text on the inside, that really is evoking that sense. Every page when you look at the header and footer, I'm taken back to a Choose Your Own Adventure. And in a sense, that's really what this game is. It's a Choose Your Own Adventure that is being written by the players and the GM as the game progresses. Pretty cool. But the layout is sparse. There is not a lot of artwork in there. It's a lot of text walls, page after page after page after page. I remember going through the PDF going, how am I only this far into the book at this point? It really feels like I should be further on. And that's because there's just so much in there that you have to read in order to glean the ideas from the text. What artwork does exist is really good. It evokes a folk art style, almost like you had paper torn out and put together to create these different art piece images. There's really good layering, and even without high detail, there's still a lot of emotion and thought that gets expressed through the artwork that's there. Unfortunately, aside from, say, chapter title pages, there's just not enough of it. Some organization is a little bit odd though, and as an example of this, I'm going to talk about the day-night moves that you can see on page 10 in the PDF. There's a listing of the results that you can get when you roll your dice for whatever particular challenge you are facing. And if you look at this, for lack of a better term, table, it lists 10 plus ahead of 7 through 9. This seems weird to me. I don't know why this is. I'm not sure if it's a powered by the apocalypse concept that just has carried over into Brindlewood Bay, but I'm just trying to figure out why it's not in consecutive order. Like, that would be the logical presentation of it. And there are some times when assumptions get made. On page 22, for example, because I wasn't looking at the character sheet at the time, I had no idea what leaving something in your cozy place unmarked meant. That could, again, be something to do with powered by the apocalypse, shorthand that's carried over into Brindlewood Bay. And if you're not familiar with that system, you're left a little bit floundering. Really, one of the things that I advise people to do, especially if you haven't played a powered by the apocalypse game before, as you're reading the rulebook, make sure you have the character sheet next to you. There's information on that character sheet that explains what's in the rulebook, which is a little bit of a deficiency in the organization to me. Now, looking at the game itself, around the table, the players are going to be playing the Mavens. These are all women in their older years who have had families or have been married, and now they're pretty much on their own in life. And they've moved to Brindlewood Bay for the quaint setting and the neat antique shops and the nice restaurants. And for the last few years, they've had a mystery book club. And this book club goes through their favorite mystery series, the Gold Crown Mysteries by Roberta Masterson. And these mysteries star a character named Amanda Delacourt. And these mavens tend to follow Amanda Delacourt's footsteps when crimes or mysteries pop up in the town of Brindlewood Bay. They get into all sorts of hijinks as they meddle in the investigation. Sometimes the officials are not that happy that they're doing so. It's a pretty good setup for the game, and I like the more laid-back feel of it. The game is run by the Keeper, who sets up the scenes and manages the NPCs and really takes care of the mysteries and the overarching conspiracy that's part of the game. The game itself, the engine is simple enough. There's 5 attributes. It's vitality, composure, reason, presence, and sensitivity. And new characters can add 1 to the default modifier for any single ability, and then they can advance as play goes on. All checks are rolled as 2d6 plus the appropriate modifier for that ability. And from 2 to 6 is a failure, 7 through 9 is a success with some consequences, 10 and up is a success that achieves exactly what it was meant to do, and 12 and up gives you a success with some added benefit, sometimes even revealing some of the underlying conspiracy that undergirds this game. Very quick, very simple. I do like it a lot. When the dice are rolled, the result is narrated by the Keeper. If there's a failure, this can range from just a sudden complication all the way to the fatality of one of the Mavens. And you'd think, well, this isn't a whole lot of fun. But there's a trick that the Mavens can play. It is called putting on a crown. And when they do that, the Keeper is going to narrate the result that had been rolled, and then you're going to rewind back to that point, and you're going to put on the crown and bump it up to the next result. So if it was a failure, now it's going to be a success with a complication. If it's a success with a complication, it's going to be a real success, that sort of thing. And you narrate that new one. The text of Brindlewood Bay's rulebook asks the question, why would you bother narrating that other result? And they point out very correctly, as far as I'm concerned, that it's just fun. You get to see an alternate reality where something went wrong, and now we're rewinding to see another outcome. Multiverse theory, in effect. Really fun. There are, however, implications that come with putting on a crown, and the Maven has to immediately follow the implications of what that is in their character. However, this is another point of the game where the organization could really be cleaned up a little bit. In the rulebook section of putting on a crown, I would have expected to see what the different types of crowns were and what impact came from putting on particular crowns. This doesn't exist anywhere in the rules text as far as I could find. It has to be seen on the character sheet, which is one of the reasons why I say read the character sheet or have it handy while you're reading the book. Just simply putting that in as a table inside the rulebook would have cleared up a lot of that for me as I was reading, and I wouldn't constantly be wondering, well, when are we going to get to this? Only to find out that we never do, because it's explained somewhere else entirely. And really, that's the engine in a nutshell. It's really dead simple. But there's a lot more to it, because each Maven has a certain set of things that are called moves, and they're triggered when certain events happen in the game. One of the biggest ones is the day-night move. If the Mavens get themselves into a dangerous situation, it's going to have a different impact on them whether or not that's at day or at night. And the way it's designed is everything that happens at night is much more dangerous than things that happen during the day. And I like how the day-night move gives tension to what the Mavens are doing. Meddling is for when they actually move to get in the middle of an investigation that is currently ongoing, where the police are not going to be necessarily happy with the Mavens. But my favorite by far is the gold crown move. There is once per mystery that one of the Mavens can say, well, this is just like what happened to Amanda Delacourt. And then that player gets to create a new gold crown mystery, give it a title, and explain how Amanda Delacourt faced the situation and the solution that they got to get out of it, and narrate that through as the Mavens apply that to their own situation. Brindlewood Bay is set up to be cut like a television show. You're not necessarily narrating as the characters go from place to place to place, unless you want a cutscene where they're talking in the car. Oftentimes you can just cut to black and then pop up and suddenly you're at the coffee shop or at the murder site or at the police station. And then you're going to be using moves to progress yourself through that new scene. Every session of Brindlewood Bay is meant to feel like you've gone from the beginning to the end of an episode. And if you have to cut halfway through the mystery before they can solve it, well, then that just becomes a two-part. I love the TV feeling of the game. It adds to the charm. And beyond the generic moves that happen to the Mavens as a whole, each Maven has their own moves. And these are listed in a pretty fun way. They're all named after famous detective or crime show characters from the 70s and the 80s, and I think maybe the 90s. My favorite by far is the Rockford move, because my dad, when I was growing up, loved to watch the Rockford Files, and every episode of the Rockford Files started off with Jim Rockford listening to his answering machine. And this is how this move works. Every session, the Maven gets up, and there's a message there on the answering machine for the Maven that she has to accomplish during that session some way. And as the mysteries progress, those requests that come on the answering machine have to get more and more difficult to accomplish. It's really fun. There's a lot of color in this game. It's something that I would think that I'd have a lot of fun role-playing through. But what I love about how this game is designed is there's no canonical solutions to all these mysteries that the Mavens stumble into. They have to put the clues together on their own and create a solution that incorporates them. Then they trigger the Theorize move, and the success or failure of this move indicates that the mystery has indeed been solved. Simply solving the mystery, however, is not the end of the story, because then you have to confront the person who is involved in committing the crime and bring that person to justice. That tends to be one of the more dangerous aspects of each mystery. But I love it. It just puts everything on the player's hands and says, here's the information. What solution do you come up with? There's a lot of creativity that's required to play this game on the part of players. Nothing is handheld for them. They have to go out and do this on their own. As I pointed out, the setting for the game is Brindlewood Bay, which is a small town, former whaling town in Massachusetts, and it has transitioned to a tourist spot. Lots of antique shops, lots of restaurants, cool things to do. I actually lived up on the north of Boston on Cape Ann for a few years right after I got out of college, so I can picture the setting in my head. I can almost walk through it, so it's kind of cool. And for whatever reason, Brindlewood Bay has a lot of crime that happens into it, sometimes murders and disappearances and kidnappings, and the Mavens have to get involved. There is a dark conspiracy that undergirds this game. This is a group of people who believe that humanity's days are numbered, and they want to bring the rise of a creature of the deep to wipe out all of civilization so that people can start over again. And as the Mavens progress through the mysteries, they're going to encounter more and more of the elements of this conspiracy until at the end they have to confront that conspiracy itself and come up with a solution for it. You have this Murder, She Wrote, a bunch of Jessica Fletchers running around solving crimes in a quaint New England town. And then every now and again, you just see the tentacles pop up from the ocean, trying to suck people down into the depths. And there's that creepy factor that exists just behind you, making the hair on your neck stand up, but it never erases the coziness of the entire setting. So it's a nice blend of two very different genres, and neither overwhelms the other. So this is a book I'm going to take another look at when the physical copy comes out, hopefully by the end of this year. But it's a rather interesting setting. If you're familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse at all, there's no real reason for you not to pick this up. And it's this great, cozy, neat game that has some high tension in it, but never erases the coziness. This is something I think I can really play with my neighbors, and they'll enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to it. It's not perfect by any means. I do think it could benefit from pulling in some tables or breaking some information out into bullet points on occasion, and it definitely could use some more artwork. But in general, it's accessible enough, and it's got me hooked enough that I want to play this for myself. When this comes out for general release, it's something that I really would consider taking a look at. Just remember to have your character sheet handy while you're reading the rulebook, because it's going to make everything make so much more sense. Thank you again for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers. We have broken the 900 barrier. We are on our way to 1,000. So if you are watching this video and you have not subscribed yet, I encourage you to do that. It really helps the channel. It promotes us and gets more eyeballs to see the content that is being made here. Like, subscribe, do all the cool things. Leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Over the summer, I picked up a book that I have read a couple of times, and I'm finally going to get to take a look at it on this channel. In fact, I think it's a good time to do it because they just announced that they're coming out with a version of this game that will be compatible with Old School Essentials, which I've reviewed on this channel previously. That is Dark Places and Demigorgons. Strange Things Are Happening in the 1980s. This is another book that is basically Stranger Things, the RPG. I really like a lot about this system, and I can't wait to talk about it with you when I get a chance to film it. Until then, happy playing, everyone.